Recording in progress.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. So I've been focusing on training a little bit and how many of us know certain texts or certain cliche scriptures, and we don't fully comprehend everything about it. So the main one that I want to deal with is this: train up a child in the way they should go, and they'll find it hard to depart from it. The thing that I don't think most get is that in that you can train someone error, and they will basically take that as their way of being, their way of lifestyle, and it'll be difficult for them to ever depart from it, even when they're added or giving new information. So, okay, let's deal with it. My focus here is this: when it comes to departing from training, when you're provided new information, what will you do? What will you do? Will you fight against it due to cognitive dissonance, or will you change? So the message is titled Departing from Training with provided when provided new information, and is dealing with the Sabbath. So let's go. I'm gonna start off with the scripture, or with the text that deals with the training first. So let's go over here, share my screen. We're going to go over here to Mishle, or Proverbs 22, and what's called verse 6. And it says, train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he turns not away from it. He won't depart from it. Abiyah, I pray this Shabbat here, that those that hear this are able to study to show themselves approved and hear what is supposed to be heard from this message, that they can investigate themselves and see what I'm saying and decide if it's true, if it's something that they should add to their training. I believe that what I'm finna show is clear in what it's saying, but many have rejected this when I shared it before. So again, sharing it again, I have new audience and some from my past. So may your will be done on earth as is in the Shamayim. Yada Yahuwah. So I'm going to jump right into it. I've already set forth something out of the Tanakh. I like to always start off in the Tanakh. That's just my habit. So I'm going to go over here to Matthew, or Matthew Yahoo 28, and start off right here with what's called the first verse. And it says, but late in the Sabbath. I'm going to stop right there. I came into this walk, and a lot of the things I believe we were given were from the Ashkenazis and their interpretation. And most people have not studied out the thing, they just kept doing and kept doing. Majority of the people I know do Shabbat from evening to evening. I do recognize that there is a feast day, specifically the atonement, that we're told to do that from evening to evening, but that does not match up with the rest of the text. But let's keep going. But late in the Sabbath, as it was dawning into day one of the week. So if you go by the 6 p.m. narrative, or evening to evening, late in the Sabbath would be about 5 o'clock, approaching 6 if we use time. That's nowhere near the dawn. but dawning into day one of the week. We're in wintertime right now. 5 p.m. is starting to get dark. The light is basically going away and it's starting to get dark at 5 p.m., approaching 6, what they say is the evening. So that's not dawn. It's getting dark. As it was dawning into day one of the week, Miriam and from Magdala and the other Miriam came to see the tomb, and see there was a great earthquake, for a messenger of Yahuwah came down out of heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat on it. Now, this would be a time that is getting dark. It would say if it's finna be the next day, or if you're doing the evening to evening, how does that make sense? That you're going to go to the tomb when the day is about to get dark. It seemed like you would want to approach when it's starting to get light. But let's keep going. Let's keep going. I'm going to move down here to verse 12. So remember, it's coming to the end of the Shabbat. It says late in the Sabbath, the end of the Shabbat, and it's becoming the first day of the week. So going down here to verse 12. And when they come together with the elders and taking counsel, they gave enough silver to the soldiers, saying, say that his taught ones came at night and stole him away while we slept. So they came to the tomb at the end of Sabbath. So if they came at 5 p.m., all that time before there was light. The taught ones would not have came in the light and taken him, because the guards or anybody else would be able to see them. It said the taught ones came at night. The night was just approaching if you're going with the 6 p.m. narrative, because it wasn't night yet. It was dawning on a new day. But if you're getting to 6 p.m., night is about to happen. If they came at night, they would have to do it at the beginning of the Shabbat. That would be work. Because let's go back up. It says late in the Sabbath day. So if the Sabbath starts at 6 p.m., the 6 p.m. prior to this, what is approaching, would be the Sabbath day if you're going by 6 p.m. And if they took him at night, that means they were working on a Shabbat. They would be defiling him, touching him, them transgressing the Shabbat. But let me keep going. Let me go. I'm gonna go to the next thing. No, I'm gonna go back to the beginning. I'm gonna go to Genesis 1. That's where I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go back to the beginning. Genesis 1. And because I believe a lot of the error comes about by how people read this. It's an English language. It's not in Hebrew, but they read it in an interesting way. I'm gonna start from the beginning because, of course, we know everything started in darkness. But if you really think about it, what we call day starts in the darkness because the light starts to approach. When I would start my work day, when I used to work first shift, I would get up about 5 in the morning, and light would start coming from out of the dark. The beginning of my day would start off dark and then get light. But okay, In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth, and the earth came to be formless and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the spirit of Elohim was moving on the face of the waters. So this is work is happening. And Elohim said, let light come to be, and light came to be. And Elohim saw the light, and it was good. And Elohim separated the light from the darkness. Separated. They two different things now. And Elohim called the light day. So when did day stop being the light? And the darkness he called night. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning one day. This is where the problem comes in, because you already have it printed in your head that the Shabbat is 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. or evening to evening. You ignore what the text is saying. And there came to be, work was done, and there came to be evening. You don't, it came to be evening. Evening. Not hearing about any work between this period, and there came to be morning. So from evening to morning, you don't hear about no work in between that period of time. But really consider from evening to morning what's going on. He separated the light from the darkness. From evening to morning, what is going on in there? Is it light or is it darkness? It's darkness. From eve, because when you come to the eve, if you come to 6 p.m., especially in this wintertime, it's getting dark. And then from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., it's dark. And remember, the light is separated from the dark. So, and there came to be evening in the morning. It didn't say evening to evening. It says came to be evening, and there came to be morning. One day. So remember, stuff was happening. Then it came to be evening. Then it came to be morning. So you got actually morning to morning. Starting with morning and work, then evening happening, nothing going on. Then it comes back to morning. And then guess what happens after that one day? And Elohim said, let an expanse come to be in the midst of the waters. Work begins again after morning, after the day starts. Let an expanse come to be in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And Elohim made the expanse and separated the waters which were under the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse, and it came to be so. And Elohim called the expanse heavens, and there came to be, so work is happening after morning, and it came to be evening. Work stopped. And there came to be morning. Again, evening to morning is right there. Not evening to evening. Is a period of time that is all darkness. Remember, he separated the light from the dark. Slow down and listen. Use your brain. I'm not trying to insult anyone, but I'm like, your training has had you automatically kicking this out. But it came to be evening. What was happening? Came to be evening. You don't hear about no work. And then there came to be morning. So between the period of evening to morning, is any work mentioned? No. What's happening between evening and morning is all darkness. And then the second day starts. The second day. No, second day didn't start. No, the second day ended. Came morning, second day ended. Then now, beginning of a new day, you see, and Elohim said, let the water. So he begins work right after morning, every single time, except for when you come to the seventh day. When you come to the seventh day, no work is done. So from evening to morning, every day, no work is done. So that's a normal thing. So for the Shabbat, that normal work that's going on in the day is not occurring. The night, no work was done on the other 6 days. So the set apart part is the day of the seventh. Not the, we use 24 hours to say a day, but the daytime of the seventh day. But let's go. I want to go over here to Shemot or Exodus 18 and just read something here. And it says here 13, what says 13? And it said it came to be on the next day, that Moshe sat to rightly rule the people. The next day, Moshe wouldn't start ruling the people at 6 p.m. or at evening when it's going to get dark. And the people stood before Moshe from morning into evening, not from evening into morning, but from morning into evening, from the beginning of light to when it started getting dark. Not from evening to morning, because that would be when it would be getting dark and it would stay dark. No, but Moshe was there from morning into evening. Let that cognitive dissonance go. Let that training, let what we first came into go. But nope, I'm gonna show you. Most of y'all, I believe in the Brit Hadashah as well. So I started off, I hit on that. I'm gonna hit on it some more. I'm gonna go over here. Hold on, let me look at my notes. I want to make sure that I'm not skipping any steps or whatever. And I'm gonna turn off my screen for a minute. Let me see. I want to make sure I'm not skipping any steps or whatever. Yep, yep. Okay. No, I'm back at it. I got it. I got it. All right. I'm going over here to Mark or Marcus 16. And I'm gonna start with verse 1 and 2. And it says, and when the Sabbath was passed, remember, I'm gonna go back over here. This is matching over here. This Matthew Yahoo 1. It says late in the Sabbath. So this is showing, this is speaking of the end or after. And when the Sabbath was passed, Miriam from Magdala and Miriam, the mother of Yaqub and Shalamah brought spices to go to anoint him. So again, if the Sabbath starts at evening, it's saying he coming when it's finna go to nighttime. But that's not what it's saying. And very early on day one of the week, very early, if you're going by the evening time, would be at the beginning of evening. No, that's not what it's saying. And very early on day one of the week, they came to the tomb when the sun had risen. Not when the sun was going down. Remember, sundown is what you have been taught is the beginning of the day. But early on day one, they came to the tomb when the sun had risen. So the day was just beginning. The light was just beginning because it's early in the day. That cognitive dissonance has you trapped. That training that you had has you sit where I ain't letting this go. I'm not going to depart from this. I'm not taking in no new information. I have so many people that I just love and respect, but I've tried to share this with them, but because it's me, they ain't hearing it. I've even brought this to other Morays and Zakings. Now, one of my best friends, the Moray in Detroit, he heard me and he started studying himself. And he came to it and he even started teaching it. But of course, people don't even want to hear him either. You know, yeah, Moray James and me, that's my aunt. He was able to hear me. He didn't agree with me off the rip. he went and studied and showed himself approved. He didn't get it from me. He let Yah open him up because he was not going to stay on the ground or let his training block him from accepting new information. But again, it says, and very early on day one of the week, they came to tomb when the sun had risen. When the sun was going down, not sundown, when it risen. But let's keep going because we're dealing with day one, the beginning of day one. Let's go. Let's go down to verse 9. Verse 9. So this is at the beginning of the day. And having risen early on the first day of the week, he appeared first to Miriam and Magdala, from whom he had cast out 7 demons. Man, so you telling me he approached them at night in the dark? No, but remember it said after the sun had risen. So it's light out. It's light out. It's light out. They were able to see who they were dealing with. It wasn't under the guise of darkness. They were, if he appeared, they were able to see him. All right. Let's jump over here to Luke or Lucas 24. Dealing with the Besor. We're dealing with the Besor. We're only called the gospel. It ain't no God spell, but the Besor. And see, we're dealing with the same narrative from different aspects, different vantage points, different perspectives. But on day one of the week, at early dawn, man, that cognitive dissonance won't let that go. But at early dawn, early dawn. But on day one of the week, Yom Rishon, at early dawn, they came to the tomb bringing spices, which they had prepared. Early dawn. Dawn is when it's a little bit dark and it's starting to lighten up. They came early on day one. And they found the stone rolled away from the tomb. And having entered, they did not find the body of the master, Yahusha. All right, let's move down. Go down to verse 6. We're still in Luke 24. Luke is 24. Verse 6, it said, he is not there, not here, but has been raised up. Remember how he spoke to you when he was still in Galilee, saying, the son of Adam has to be delivered into the hands of sinners and be impaled, and on the third day rise again. Third day rise again. On the third day rise again. Still gonna stay in the same. And we're gonna go down. So go down. Same day. Go down to 21. Because y'all can read, I want y'all to read all of that. But I'm for time's sake, I'm skipping through. 21, it says, we, however, were expecting that it was he who was going to redeem Israel. Besides all this, today is the third day since the matters took place. But certain women of ours who arrived at the tomb early, also astonished us. When they did not find his body, they came saying that they had also seen a vision of messengers who said he was alive. And some of those with us went to the tomb and found it. And also the women had said, but as also the women had said, but they did not see him. And he said to them, oh, thoughtless ones and slow of heart to believe in all the prophets have spoken. All right. Again, this all happened in the same day. If they came early on the first day, if you go to that narrative of 6 p.m. or evening, they would be coming when it's getting dark, and all this stuff would be happening at night, but it's still happening in the day. But anyway, let's go. Let's jump over to Yohanan and start off at the beginning again of the Basora. And it says, and on day one of the week, Miriam from Magdalene came early again to the tomb while it was still dark. Not when it was getting dark, but it was still dark. Early at the evening time would be getting dark. Not that it was still dark, if you're going by that 6 p.m. or evening to evening narrative, and saw that the stone had been removed from the tomb. Whew. Now, come on, let's jump down to 16. I'm showing you that I'm in the same spot. Okay, let's go down to 16. And I'm gonna actually go at 15. I'm gonna start off at 13. And okay, no. I'm gonna go to 12. And saw two messengers in white sitting, one at the head and the other at the feet, where the body of Yahusha had been laying. Remember, this is still early. And they said to her, the messenger said, Woman, why do you weep? She said to them, Because they took away my master, and I do not know where they laid him. And having said this, she turned around and saw Yahusha standing, but did not know that it was Yahusha. Yahusha said to her, Woman, why do you weep? Whom do you seek? Thinking he was the gardener, she said to him, Master, if you have carried him away, say to me where you put him, and I shall take him away. Yahusha said to her, Miriam. She turned and said to him, Rabboni, which means teacher. Yahusha said to her, Do not hold on to me, for I have not ascended to my Father, but go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, and to my Elohim, your Elohim. That right there is significant because a lot of people still teaching that Yahusha and the Father are the same. But he says, I am ascending to my Father and your Father. So that our Father who art in heaven, thy will be done. Same Father. We have to share the same Father as him. But to my Elohim, my King, and your King. But anyway, I may be accused of being adding. Let me stop. All right, keep on. Miriam from Magdala came announcing to the taught ones that she had seen the master and that he had told her this. All right. When therefore it was evening on a day. What? Hold on. If the day starts on evening, how can it end up being evening and still be that same day? Hold on. Break the cognitive dissonance. When therefore it was evening, all of this stuff happened, and now you're approaching evening, and it's saying on that day, day one of the week, not on a whole new day, because if evening and evening, that means this would be a whole new day. But when therefore it was evening on that day, day one of the week, come on, I gotta go all the way back to the beginning. Got to. Because some of y'all ain't hearing this. And on day one of the week, Miriam from Magdala came early to the tomb. So early, that means it's stuff afterwards that can happen. And so when we go down to 19, we see after stuff has happened. It ain't a new day yet. It says when therefore it was evening. So all this stuff happened and then evening approached on that day. So the evening of that day is approaching, not starting the day, but it's approaching. When therefore it was evening on that day, day one of the week, and when the doors were shut, where the taught ones met for the fear of the Yahudim, Yahusha came and stood in the midst and said to them, he said, Shalom, peace to you. If evening of that day was the start, how did it come to be evening again in that same day? Come on. Come on. Man, I, I get it. Your training is in you, but you got to depart from it when new information is passed to you. You got to be able to let go of the cognitive dissonance. These Ashkenazis taught you that. These Ish people, the oracle's supposed to be with you, and you refuse to accept new information when it challenges the paradigm of what you've been taught, what you've been trained. How did you become an Israelite? I came out of being a Christian, which I was trained in, and I fought tooth and nail to try to hold on to Christianity. But when new information was interjected, I had to study to show myself approved and have to fight through the dissonance and release what I've been taught. Man, I try to help y'all with so many things. I show etymology of nice. Nice is saying you stupid, you naive. People won't let it go. Calling themselves black, nothingness, and actually pale and white. People won't let it go. African American, how can you be a two continent? Won't let it go. It's a lot of stuff we won't let go. A lot of y'all won't let go of the name of Jesus. When somebody shows you new information, I ain't letting it go, knowing that the J didn't exist. Well, I've seen so much blessings, so many favor. I don't even say the word blessed for myself. I don't want to be less. I'm favored, Baruch. But you get mad at me again. You got to do you, but at least study to show yourself approved. If you want to disagree with me, that's fine. But let it be based on your own studies and not just because I was taught. When you're provided new information, you got to be willing to let it go. If you look, let me just address some things from my notes. It said, and when the doors were shut, where the taught ones met for fear of the Yahudim, Yahusha came and stood in the midst. He stood on day one in the evening when they found the tomb empty early on the Shabbat. So he stood in the evening. If that was the evening, come on. You got to make it make sense. You got to make it make sense. Come on. Oh, man. Can't, I can't get mad at y'all because I was there. I was fighting with the dissonance and I don't know. I've lost friends over this or people who said they were my friends because you teach you something different. Um, if we came out of Christianity, everything that we're teaching now is something different. I get it. You don't agree with me. I get it. You don't have a respect for my person. Have a respect for yourself to study to show yourself approved. You don't get in by my volition. I have nothing to do with you entering in the kingdom that's going to be here on earth. That's another thing too. You know, a lot of y'all, I'm going to heaven. No, heaven going to be here. Throne going to come down. Yes. But again, study for yourself. Yahuwah is the King of Kings. I made people mad when I say that. It's Yahusha. I love Yahusha, my high priest. But the high priest is the way, the directions that's pointing towards a destination. And the destination, according to even Yahusha, again, just showed you again where he just mentioned about his Father being our Father. Our Father is his model prayer, which art in heaven, hallowed, holy be thy name. Thy kingdom come, not Yahushua's kingdom, Yahuwah's kingdom come on earth as is in the Shamayim. Thy will be done. His will is that we recognize and be able to accept new information and depart from training that was bad. Many of us were trained a lot of things, a lot of our flaws of our parents that they taught us in ignorance. We got to depart from it. I have two sets of children from two marriages, and I see, again, I've talked about this. The first two were raised up on all of the holidays of this earth or America. The second two were not. They didn't struggle with it. The first one struggled with it. If we train right in the first place, then yeah, it's going to be hard for them to depart from that good training. But if we train horrible and wrong, it's going to be hard for them to depart. That principle is there, despite of how good or bad horrible the training is. So we need to be doing our diligence to make sure that we train right in the first place. And teaching people that the Shabbat is from evening to evening, that's bad doctrine. That's bad comprehension of the text. I'm not faulting or condemning anybody for it, because I did the same thing. But when new information is given, you should be able to accept it and move off of it. Not initially at the first moment, but after you studied it out yourself to show yourself approved. Get in your word. Allow the Ruach to open you up. Because best believe, if you set in your mind that you ain't going to change, the Ruach ain't going to force you to change. It's going to put opportunities for you to change, but if you're not going to force himself on you. That's not how the Ruach operates. That's how them demons and other spiritual entities operate when they try to manipulate you and stuff like that. That's how men operate. Abba Yahuwah. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for the peace of this day, the rest of this day, and the convocation of this day. May my household always be about being open to new information so that we may do your will on earth as it is in the Shamayim. May we be willing to admit that we're in error or wrong and move towards operating in obedience, because that's the love language that you desire, that we operate in obedience towards your will, your commands, your instructions. Shan Yah, One Vision Ministry, Echad, Chazan Sheriff. This household is a sanctuary. This house is a place of acknowledgement of you and your will. Yada Yahuwah. All praises to the Most High, Yahuwah. Shabbat Shalom.